Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you're listening to this and wherever you're listening to this from, welcome to the Mental Application Study. It's good to have us all back again. So recently we took a short break from the Mental Application Study online, and we it was intentional actually. We wanted to make sure that we're preparing for the new phase of work that has to do with our institution, transiting and all of that into something more productive and then that blesses as many persons that follow our institution. Okay, so now we're back and then we're better, we're bringing more qualitative contents to you. And my name remains, of course, Oluwatomi Singh. I am your instructor for the mental application study. And if you're just joining us for the first time, this is your first time stumbling on our videos, stumbling on the mental application study. Come on, we're glad to have you literally study with us. This is the mental application study, and the intention for this platform is quite simple. This platform is put in place to help young individuals develop mental productivity, especially in the days and the age that we are in right now. It feels and it looks as if mental productivity is becoming, a luxury, literally, and we are having young people that are becoming largely mentally unproductive. Yeah, so this is what this platform is for, to help an average young person augment their mental space, augment, yes, and like I would always say, which is of course the motto for this platform, your life is a reflection of how your mind, the state of your mind, literally, your life in total is a reflection of what you have in your mind, and that is the truth forever. Your mind is that determining factor for what happens or transpires with your life, even as an individual. Are we still together? Okay, so this is what this platform is about. If you're just listening or you're just joining, you can check up our other teachings even on this platform on YouTube, and check out the mental application session. Are we still together? And then you can get to listen to as much as possible. Are we still together? And then if you want to listen to our previous classes, you can do that on our e-resource library on Telegram. You just get into Telegram and just type Beyond the School Wall, and you can have access to a whole lot of teachings. Of course, they are absolutely free. All of the teachings we've had on our mental app, trust me, they're going to bless you, especially if you're a young person interested in mental development. They really are going to transform and change your life, literally. All right, so that we don't waste all of the time, it's good to be back. And one of the topics we're going to be considering first is the mind of a creator. The mind of a creator, observing the balance between creation and consumption. Observing the balance between creation and consumption. Observing the balance between creation and consumption. And if there's something I want to talk about the mind of the creator, every individual has this mind of the creator. Let me put it in quotes. I'm not trying to generalize it, but there is this concept about creativity. Let me do a little bit of introductory so that an average person understands where we're coming from. Is that fine? Okay, let me get right on just one side of my screen so it's easy for me to pull through. Okay, so basically, there are on one of our schools, we have cross section of platforms, literally. One of our platforms, or one of our micro degree institution, is the Magnet School, right? And the Magnet School is where we raise and train industry innovative individuals. Yes, we train them with industry intelligence and help them become innovators and creative individuals, offering creative solution and innovative driven solution in industries. Now, one of the things I get to teach at the platform or on the school is the 5 innate ability of every man. Basically, that I've studied through, I've studied far and wide as much as I can, and I found out that every man has 5. Maybe tomorrow I'll find the 6th, but for now, currently speaking, there are five innate ability I've discovered every man has a potential or a latent, let me call it latent ability. Are we still together? And that the first is we teach explanatory on this on our magnet school, and how to maximize the amount of that. The first is the discovery, and this is what causes man to be problem conscious. And I don't want to go deep down into this, but it's important that an average person understands, right? The first we have discovery, right? We have discovery, then we have the human ability to create. We call it creativity in school, and this is what I want to talk about. Maybe I should just keep the rest. If you're interested in learning the rest, come to class, okay? But don't not to keep it. It's nothing too wide. We have human's ability to be innovative, basically, and fourth we have human's managerial ability, management, basically, and then lastly, which is number 5, we have human's ability to be resourceful. Resourcefulness, basically. Okay, now these are the 5 innate ability of every individual. Innate ability. Are we still together? All right, now what we want to concentrate mostly on is the creative side of things, right? Okay, so there is something about creativity and the way the world has explained what creativity is right now. So we believe that creativity is just for X class of people, and only certain class of persons can create. Every man has a latent ability to create, and I found out basically that one of the ways that a man can change his situation is never to complain but to create. Literally, you have every man, and this is why I would always focus. I'm a mental, not mental like mental issues though, but I'm a mental productivity enthusiast. Basically, I believe that once the mind of a person changes, which of course is term transformation, once the mind of a person changes, his life or her life changes forever. Now, one of the abilities that man have is that ability to by himself change his life. And complaint has never changed anybody's life. Literally, I'm a Christian, I study the scriptures. I've never seen anywhere where people complain to change their life, but I've seen where people choose to create to change their life. The first person who did that, of course, if you're a Christian, you'll find out in the book of Genesis, that's the creation story. The Bible, one of the very funny thing about the scripture is the fact that it is very life applicable. Okay, now we had the first scene of the scripture, like a scene properly, and then the first thing we heard was, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. Beautiful stuff. And the next thing we heard was there was chaos already. Now God could have done what an average person could have done and sit down and say, come on, how did what I create? The next thing you want to see on the face of on the scene is the creation story enacting. So there is something about the human ability that has to do with creation, your ability to create. You literally have to create yourself out of problems, basically. When there is a challenge, the question now becomes, what can I create? Of course, and when I mean create, nobody talks about creating. Creation can be in diverse ways. Of course, I teach this in our schools, that creation could be a product. Yes, creation could be a service, and creation could be an institution or a platform. Creation is anything, and one thing is, creation starts from your mental space. You cannot create what you have not seen in your mental, state. You cannot create what has not first, been envisioned. I think it was Plato that spoke about this when he was talking about the concept of realism. Literally, I studied a little bit of philosophy here and there just to augment life, basically. But do you understand what I'm trying to say? So creation is very important. If there is one ability, of course, this 5 ability is what an average person ought to develop. This is what I term. When people say I want to do personal development. Personal development is not just picking any material and reading and saying, I'm developing myself personally. Personal development is picking materials that help you develop each aspect of disability. So for instance, if for the first quarter of 2024 what I want to do is develop my discovery ability, so the question I ask is, what materials, book, conferences, seminars are going to help me help me train that ability that I have for discovery? Which means I'm going to read books more. I could even suggest books like Law of Recognition. I can't remember the name of the author anymore right now, but this book help you build that discovery, your ability to see. Is that your ability for sight, not seeing with your physical eyes, but the ability to recognize patterns, the ability to recognize challenges and turn challenges into opportunities. Because the reason why people don't recognize opportunities is because they have not trained that aspect of their life that has to do with discovery. What you have not discovered, you cannot maximize. Of course, it's truth forever. Do you understand what I'm trying to say at all? Literally, that is it. Do you understand? So people people focus on the generic, and they don't go back to the crux of these things. I had to find this stuff out, because number one, I took my life seriously, literally, and I really want to become a very productive individual. And so I was looking for, I don't want to just look for what everybody says or what everybody knows. What are these, what makes the crux of what a man is in terms of productivity? And then these things came. Are we still together? So that means every man has the potential to create, but the challenge now is not can I create. The challenge now is, how do I create? That is the challenge. The challenge is no longer can I create. The first thing I want to do in this class tonight is first to make you understand that yes, you can create. So the challenge is not can I create. The challenge now becomes, how can I create? And to know how to create and what will I create. If you understand the how, you begin to now know what to create. What to create cannot be taught to you on this platform. You want to know what to create? Join our schools. And this is not me advertising, but join our schools, literally. Okay, back to work. Now, to understand how to create, you need to understand how the mind of a creator works. To understand how to create, you need to understand how the mind of a creator works, and that is what we intend to do to this session. Okay, so let's get right into class, and I believe it's going to be a productive one for all of us, literally. Are we set? Okay, so the mind of a creator, I believe everyone can see my screen so well. Let me zoom in a little bit so it's better. All right, great. So I have, I write on my screen right here on digital notes or digital board, whatever you want to call it, the mind of a creator. The mind of a creator, observing the balance between creation and consumption. And this is what we want to focus on. The difference between creation and what? Consumption. Please forgive that. I think I need to reduce this a little bit. Apologies, please, everyone. Okay, observing the balance between creation and what? Consumption. Now, you need to understand that these two things work side by side. There is no creation, and you might want to note this down. I know you're listening to this as a video content, but I've always taught, let people know that if you're listening to something educational or instructional, you should have something to jot down, type somewhere, so that you create a reminder. Okay, now there can never be creation without consumption, literally. And when I mean consumption, I'm not meaning consumption from the standpoint of usage and abuse. I'm talking from the standpoint of contribution. Does it make a lot of sense? Okay, you really cannot create if you don't consume. There is no creation without consumption. I wrote here on my digital note and I said, okay, forgive that. What you create is what you consume is what you will create. The mind is only a processing mill. So most persons don't understand this part of the equation, and it's okay, I'm trying to create, but I don't know what to create, or I don't know how to create. The challenge is, the question you want to ask the individuals first is, what do you consume? So most times when I'm trying to do something, but I don't know how to do that stuff. So the first question I ask is, who do you listen to? What do you listen to? What do you spend your time? And you will find out that many young persons actually don't have a consumption skill. I want to call it a skill, but let me just, they don't have that ability to consume. They have never, intentionally consumed something before. We've seen the lives of, one of the individuals I respect so much in my life. I've never met him before, literally, and I've never met him before. Is the general overseer of Living Faith Tabernacle. That's Bishop David Oyedepo. I was listening to one of his session at the graduation of one of the universities, and he was talking about how it took time to study the biographies of some couple of ministries in the world, and how it was through these biographies he was able to build a sustainable ministry also. And this also I've learned from the life of my model and my life coach, Oluwatobiloba Oshunbi, how you literally have to focus on consumption, not from the standpoint of a user, but from the standpoint of a contributor. What you have not consumed, you cannot create. The creation is not spontaneous. Creation is not sporadic. Creation is not creation is not is not magical, and creation is magical, but creation is not is not sorcery bound. It doesn't just appear. The creation is a process and a journey, and the journey and the process is to the degree to how much you have consumed. People don't read and expect to be problem solvers. It's funny how people don't study, they don't read, they don't go to conferences. People go to conferences to take pictures and just tell them we are here, we are live at this conference. They don't listen. I don't think I've attended a conference where I took a single picture. You won't even know I was there, because the real essence of going to the conference was never to take pictures, but to learn, to consume. There is somebody in that conference that has lived 10 years ahead of you, and you want to consume to be able to create. I wrote on my digital board and I said, life is garbage in, garbage out. What you take in is what ends up going out. If there is one thing that has to be known about creation, it is that it is not as spontaneous and magical as we had made it seem. So it now feels and look like just a few people have this unique superpower to be creative, which is not true. Every man was created in God's image according to the scripture to create. But then creativity in slash creation is a balance between consumption and creation. And you need to note this, that what you consume, are we still together? Is everyone still with me? What you consume is a template for your creation, and this is powerful. That what you consume becomes a template. Creation is, let me cause a little bit of trouble, but it's not trouble anyways. Is the truth. Creation is template bound. Creation is what? Template bound. You might want to know that down. How did I know this? When the Bible talked about, forgive me, I keep referencing the Bible. At Beyond the School Wall, we view the Bible, of course, as a book. It's one of our textbooks that we use in our institution. So I'm not speaking from the standpoint of a religious person. I'm speaking from the standpoint of an educational person that views all books as instructional manuals. Does it make a lot of sense? Okay, good. The same way we refer to philosophical materials, the same way we refer to the Bible. Okay, now when the Bible was speaking, and then that was the creation story, right? The Bible spoke about how God created the light, and then the Bible says, and God saw that the light was good. Now the question I ask myself whenever I read this is, as compared to what? If you say, wow, I made this food and this food is good, that means you have a comparison, or you have a template. If there was no template, there really cannot be good. We all did adjectives, comparative adjectives in secondary school or high school or whatever school you went to, where we have, the what is it called? Comparative, superlative, what else is there? All the latives. Okay, now you have good, better, best, right? That means there is a comparison. Yes, there is a comparison. You're comparing something. That means there is a template. So that makes us understand that creation is actually template bound, and your template is from what you have consumed. So People don't have this is why many persons say I'm trying to solve problems, or I'm trying to be an innovative person, or I'm trying to be a creative person, and it looks as if it's difficult. You do not have a template. Are we still together? All right. So moving on, just to continue, I wrote here and I said a Yoruba adage. I'm a Yoruba man. A Yoruba adage, roughly translated, says what a bird eats is what a bird flies with. In Yoruba, it is said that in konteyeba je leye magbefo. And that means what the bird eats is what the bird flies with. What you consume is what you try. Every great man on the face of the earth, and trust me, I've studied biographies of a whole lot of them as much as I could lay my hand on. Nobody created without consuming. One of the few persons I think I've studied so much is Albert Einstein, and I love him so much. I don't know him, I've never met him. He died way before I was even ever thought of coming to earth, and but his works are still alive and they speak volumes of the man. Are we still together? And I've taken my time to study, and you will find out that this nobody, see, one thing I want, let this stay in your mind. Nobody just appears on the scene. Everybody is a product of someone else's labor. Every creation is a product of you consume someone else's knowledge to create, which of course creates the concept of advancement. Are we still together? I wrote here and I said we now have a generation of individuals who want to create but do not want to consume. So we have people creating on whims, creating what cannot last because there is no templates for what they are trying to do. So I said every great creation in the world today is a product of men who had consumed something to recreate. This is how the mind of the creator works. The mind of the creator knows that no creation happens without consumption. So you are now we're going to get there where we're going to talk about copying someone is not consumption. Plagiarism is not consumption. We now live in a world where there's a lot of trouble right now, and you have to be careful what you say to people because people have a mind of their own. But we're gonna get there. Stay with us. It's gonna get beautiful. Don't run away just yet. Listen, and if you're listening to this, you can, it's blessing you. You can hit the like button, subscribe to this platform if you have not done that, and intentionally share to someone. Literally. Okay, let's get back to work. So, what is creation, right? Now, creation is the ultimate act of translating information, emotion, and vision into tangible form, giving creators a unique voice. Creation is all about giving, see, let me make it simple. The world we live in is first, the world we live in is tangible. The world we live in is what? Tangible. But everything that drives this world is actually intangible. Are we still together? Everything that drives our tangible world is actually what? Intangible. Everything that drives our physical world is actually I won't say in physical. It's not, everything that drives our material world is actually immaterial. And these are things that you want to teach on a higher level of learnings, which of course is true. Creation is first mental. Everything in the world everything that you see in the world today came first from a mental plane. Religiosity, or hyper spiritual people will say it's the did I just say hyper spiritual people? Don't mind me. It's from the realm of the spirit, basically. But everything is first mental. There is that mental, space that creation originates from. Are we still together? Yes, the device you're listening to the class with tonight, or this morning, or this afternoon, is a product of someone's imagination. First, it was first birthed in people's mind. Does it make sense? Before it ever came into your hands. So every time you consume, what happens is that it creates, impulses, intangible impulses in that part of of your life, which is your mind, where creation happens. This is what it means to be creative. Someone once reached out to me one time and said, can you do a class on creativity? And there are things you really cannot teach people. It doesn't matter how much school you go to, you really cannot learn creativity. Creativity is an innate ability. Nobody, it's just like you want someone to teach you how to breathe. I don't know what this, but these things have to, the only way you can be taught is you have to be exposed and shown, but nobody can teach you how to be creative. Your creativity is your uniqueness. It has to come out of you. It has to, like a flower unraveling. That is how it has to happen. But we can do many things around the way to make you understand what creativity looks like. So this is one of the hallmark for creativity, that every time you consume. Have you ever studied something before? And I'm talking to people that study a lot or read a lot, or maybe will see movies, educational stuff, and most times when you consume something, you learn something, you read something, you watch something happens in your mind automatically, and you're like, wow, come on, what if this thing exists? Now, many of us shut that thing down, and we end up the process there. There is a huge work converting the intangible into the tangible, a huge work. We're not talking about that tonight, but we are just talking about the intangible part of this whole equation. Now, we get to that point where you're like, oh, come on, this thing could work, and then you're like, wow, how did I think of this stuff? That thing only came because there was a consumption. Nothing just pops into your mind and boom, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. And you can take this from me, hook and line and sinker. Nothing can bump into. If it bumped into your mind that way, it means there was a consumption some time back that is a product of. Don't say this thing just dropped in my mind. It dropped in your mind because you have a consumption template for that kind of intangible energy dropping into your mind. Does it make a lot of sense? And that is how creation starts. This is how productive the mind of a creator is. That I am only stranded to the degree to which I consume. Do you understand at all? Let's move on. Creation and consumption is an ever continuous cycle, right? You consume to create, and you create for others to consume to create. You see that is how do you draw that perpetual circle? Forgive me, I'll draw this. I've been struggling with drawing for a long time. You know what I'm trying to say, right? This perpetual circle. Yes, I don't know if this looks nice, but I like what I just drew. Okay, so you have this perpetual. That's what there's a continuous cycle of creation and consumption. You consume to create, and what you create is what others will consume to create. This is the beauty. This is the beauty of life. Does it make sense? This is the beauty of life. This is the beauty of life. This is the beauty of being a creator. This is the beauty of being, of course, you are a creator. You might not be the creator. That's it. That's of course, articles matter. You are not the creator, but you are a creator. And I mean a creator in industries. Of course, I am represented in the educational industry, right? And on the strength of what I know, I create in this industry, create curriculums, create templates, create academical systems, create ed tech solutions. This is what makes you a creator. You are not a creator because you're like, let me create my own dog. Where your creation, of course, this is me teaching the magnet school literally, but where your creation happens is in what you call industry expression. Are we still together? Every man has an industry expression. Of course, it's true forever. Every man has an industry. For myself, is education. For you, it could be finances. For anyone, it could be trade. It could be commercing. Your ability to influence in that industry is your creative strength. Does it make any sense? Okay, because of time, we're trying not to make all of our classes long anymore, so let's rush up. Now, copying is not consumption. What did I say? Copying is not consumption. Copying or plagiarism is not consumption. True consumption for creators isn't about imitation, but rather about engagement. So for you to really consume, you have to go all in. So let me give you an example. So most times when I want to study a material, or maybe I got a book and I want to read a book, I take time if I'm going to read. Let's imagine I bought a book today, right? And before I read that book, I will first take as much as possible, sometimes the next 5 hours, most times if I'm busy, the next day, maybe 24 hours, 48 hours, to first study the author. I'm not just reading the book because, oh wow, they said the book is interesting. That thing is going to be, and most books are pure rubbish, literally. After you've done all this, pure rubbish, literally. Now, you want to study the author, because when you begin to read that book, you want to be able to read that book in the voice of the author, not in your own voice. If you keep reading that book in your voice, you are not consuming yet, you are not engaging yet. The point will come where you have to hear the lines in the voice of the author. That is when you are being instructed. Of course. I hope you understand what I just did there. Okay. Now, that is engagement. That is consumption. Not, I just copy one or two, then copy from someone, copy from here, copy from here, copy from here, join it together like a welder, and then present it out there. That is not creation. That is copying and plagiarism. Okay, now I wrote here and I said copying or plagiarism is not consumption. True consumption for creators isn't about imitation, but rather about engagement with ideas, styles, and knowledge that can inspire unique work. Nobody says you cannot engage other people's work, and this is the challenge. People, I feel like I don't want to engage the work so that I don't copy him. You are not copying him. See, in fact, this is a mistake. But you want to understand that life is lived first by imitation before you find your uniqueness. You will first imitate before you find your uniqueness. Every young child grew and learned by imitation. You saw your dad walking and you stood up to want to walk also. Somebody mentioned mama and you want to say your own back. You understand what I'm trying to say? That is how life is lived by. Nobody just became unique all of a sudden. There is no unique person without a track record of consumption. Does it make a lot of sense? Okay, now I wrote here and I said number 2, absorption, not replication. You absorb, not replicate. Like a sponge, you soak in all of those things, and then you can impute you into these things and then put it out back there. Not pick somebody's thing and remove the title and remove the bottom and then rewrite it as your own. Genuine consumption involves internalizing concepts, and this thing is, maybe one day we're going to teach this alone, how to internalize concepts. That is how your mind works as a meal. You know what a grinding meal is, right? How your mind works as a meal, where you can pick things and put them into you and then absorb them. Sometimes, should I tell you the very funny thing? Sometimes it can take you weeks. It's just like a python that swallowed a whole animal. It can take you weeks to be able to fully internalize concept, and I'm not kidding. It can take you months to fully internalize a concept. This idea of I read the book today, I created my own tomorrow is a joke. Literally, sometimes it can take you weeks. I mean, weeks that will turn into months, still internalizing the concept. You have learned that thing January 2024. You're still trying to break it down in your mind December 2024. Because if you don't do that, what will happen is that you will replicate what someone has done before, and there is no room for what people have seen before. People only have room for your uniqueness and have room for your creativity. There is no room for what someone else has done before that you're trying to do. Every time you do that, you only remind people of the said persons. So you do someone else, you say, wow, why does this thing look like what? And you're in trouble already. Number 3, inspiration versus duplication. While consuming, creators can identify elements they admire and consider how they might reinterpret or build upon them. Inspiration can serve as a seed, but the resulting work should grow into something original. You do not, I intentionally put three different languages so that you understand. Copying is not consumption. Absorption, not replication. Inspiration, not duplication. Don't duplicate people's work. Be inspired by their work, but do not duplicate people's work. Of course, I've listened to teachings before, and I love the topic that the person used. I'm like, wow, this topic makes sense. Come on, I could do something around this topic. It does not mean I pick up the person's entire teaching and now reteach it and say this is my work. I love the topic and then I internalize the topic. You get what I'm trying to say? I have to now bring it through my own personal lens. And what is it called? I internalize the concept, the topic, and I'm like, okay, how else can this topic be taught? Not trying to outbeat or outshine what you just listen to, which is another challenge, which is a product of replication and duplication. The reason why you want to outshine someone is because you want to duplicate their results, which is theft. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Let's move on. Then we have the value of consumption. What is the value? I hope you understand, all of this stuff that we just, stated right here. I hope you understand. This is what will save you from corrupting your creativity can be corrupted. Are you aware? It cannot be taken. You can't lose your creativity because that is one of the crux of what makes you human, but you can corrupt it. You can corrupt your what? Creativity. You will become less creative as a person. You really can corrupt you, and I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. You really can corrupt your creativity. You really can do what? Corrupt your creativity. And corruption of creativity happens when you're trying to copy, when you're trying to replicate, when you're trying to duplicate. Let's move on. The value of consumption. What is the value of consumption? Because you need to consume as much as possible to be able to do as much as possible. Okay, 1 minute please, everyone. All right, so we have knowledge building. Consumption broadens perspective and provide insight into trends, technique, and historical context. It fuels learning. Consumption help you build your knowledge base. If you're trying to program an artificial intelligence, they call it knowledge base, right? It helps you develop. Consumption help you develop your knowledge base. You do not know as you ought. Forgive me to say that word. Yes, you do not, for we know not, as we ought. That's what the scripture says. The highest of your knowledge is trifling beside someone else's. What you think like, forget, or more, I sabi, is trifling, and you're like, really, is that all you know? And like, come on. He says that's like 0.1% of the information available that you even really can know. Like 0.1%, and you're like, who did I offend? You really did not offend anybody. Knowledge is in levels, literally. Like they used to say, this thing is in levels. That, so you don't want to. I think there's a general what's it called? There's a general saying around this that people used to say that nobody's an island. Of course, it's true. So the value of consumption, it helps you to build knowledge base. Okay. Now I wrote here and I said it fuels learning, helping creators to gather the raw material they need to later refine and reshape. Number 2, inspiration and influence. Reading, observing, and analyzing the work of others often spark fresh ideas or provide creative direction. Please don't joke with these words that are being used. These words are, one day we're going to do proper teachings on these things. Are we still together? Is everyone still with me, please? Okay, I know you can. Oh dear, I thought I was in class. I was I was waiting on your response. My sincere apologies. I actually was waiting on your response. I thought I was in class. Okay, let's continue, and let's continue work. Let's continue. Okay, so number 3, market awareness, right? Okay, are we done with that? No, we're still on number 2. So the work of reading, observing, and analyzing the work of others often spark fresh ideas or provide creative direction. The mind needs input to make creative. Oh dear Jesus. The mind needs input to make creative connection as output. Number 3, market awareness. For those whose work is a product, consumption keeps creators aware of the market, audience preference, and evolving taste. These are the values of consumption. These are the values of consumption. All right, let's move on. Now, there is also traps. What is the trap of overconsumption? You can overconsume and land in trouble. Yes, there is moderation to everything. Of course, there is how eating is good, but you can overeat and land in trouble too. There is the trap of, and once you enter into the trap of overconsumption, you will not be able to create again. See, these things are dicey, but you need to still know them. Once you enter into the trap Are we still together? Once you enter into that trap of overconsumption, your ability for creation is tampered with already. You will not be able to create, because you're going to be locked up. You're going to be locked up, and that's it, dear Jesus. I've been here many times where you know so much but you can't do anything. It's called knowledge, paralysis by knowledge, where you are paralyzed by what you know. It's the same what you know that should have liberated your life, literally, truthfully. But the same thing you know is the reason why you're never going to grow, or you're never going to do anything in life. Where you know so much and you cannot do anything is the most terrible place a creator can be. And if you're a creator on this platform, you will be able to acknowledge these things. You're a writer, you talk to people, you create value, you will know. What will happen is you will keep refining what should have entered into the market. You will keep tweaking, say, this is not perfect yet, let me work on it again. You will do it again, say, come on, this is not perfect yet, let me work on it again. You will do it, say, this is not perfect yet. You are already plagued by overconsumption. It's not as if that thing is perfect or not perfect. The reason why you keep tweaking it and you think it's not perfect yet is because you are already plagued by overconsumption. Now you are locked up. You will think you are innovating, and of course, every time you work on that stuff, it comes out better, but that thing will never see the light of day. I can assure you, I've been there many times. In fact, this is why this teaching tonight is like you're trying to teach people. Come on, you don't want to be here. Does it make a lot of sense? Okay, number one, information overload. With endless resource available, creators can drown in inspiration. It's possible. Every day your mind will be oh dear Jesus. Every day your mind will be open to new stuff. You're trying to work on this thing, boom, you saw a new idea. You should know you're already in trouble. It's not a proof of an healthy mind again. Most times is a proof of an healthy mind, but sometimes it's a proof that you're already in trouble. Where you're like, no, when I was working on that thing, I saw a new way to do the same thing. You are already in trouble. It might look nice, and like, come on now, is that not the idea? You will not grow. You see, you will not come out of that thing. Because every time if you implement that new stuff you saw, you will still see a new thing, and you will always see a new thing. The new thing will never end, and you will just keep. You are the only one that keeps enjoying the recreation. Nobody ever saw what you are doing. Let's move on. So, information overload. With endless resource available, creators can drown in inspiration without ever moving forward. The more time spent consuming, the less time remains to put ideas into action. You really cannot consume forever. When one of the times when this was happening to me, I didn't know what to do. Trust me, I didn't have a teaching like this that could have helped me. But I remember that I spoke to my life coach and my model, and he just said a simple line, and he said, nobody prepares forever. And that simple line changes my life. Changed my life, because nobody actually studied forever. Nobody studies forever. Nobody consumes forever. There's always going to be a point where you have to put ideas into action, and at that point you can't consume again. You have to halt on consumption to create. You can't consume and create at the same time. You consume to create, but you can't do both at the same time. So the moment you've consumed and you've gotten an idea, you halt on consumption and then you create. Nobody, in the words of my life coach, nobody prepares forever. There's always going to be a point where you have to do. Does it make sense? Moving forward, do you have analysis paralysis? This is one of the things I was talking about. When creators consume excessively, they risk feeling overwhelmed by the excellence or volume of others' work, which can lead to procrastination or fear of falling short. You will keep tweaking what you have done. You're like, this thing is not enough. This thing is not best. I used to use crazy words like, this thing is not best. Who told you it's not best? It's something in your head telling you this thing is not best, because you've gotten to that point. It's called analysis paralysis. You are paralyzed by knowledge. Let's move on. Then lastly, we have strategies to balance creation and consumption. Strategies to balance now, so that you will not be stuck here. So you will not be stuck here. Strategies to balance creation and consumption. I think that's the last thing we're going to consider this in this session, and we call it, it's a beautiful class already. I believe you got value for time. Okay, number one, schedule consumption time. Dedicate certain days of the day or week to consume content. This helps avoid rabbit holes while ensuring a steady flow of inspiration. You are not just reading forever, you're not just consuming forever. There are times to consume. You create scheduled time. It's very important. This might look simple, but they are very important. Number two, set creation goals. Just as consumption time can be scheduled, creation time can be goal oriented. Commit to creating a piece of work daily, weekly, or by the projects, regardless of inspiration. When I was in one of the magnet school classes, and one of our students asked a very beautiful question that brought about this. I was like, sir, most times I'm always trying to work on something, but while I'm trying to work on it, I just have another new idea for another different project. So should I stop on the one I'm currently doing and focus on that new one? Because every time I do that, there's always another new one. You might not do it in life, literally, and I'm not kidding. You need to have that strength for, what is it commitment right now. The ability to stay on one thing is not natural, it's goal oriented. That you have to set goals to be able to stay on one thing. Does it make sense? Or else you're going to be doing plenty things, and you can't do plenty things. Every man is known for one thing. So you want to create or set creation goals. Most times, weekly or daily projects or work creation might not work. It's better to work by projects. So until I'm done with this project, it doesn't matter what. I have a black book, and that's where I write. Of course, everybody is plagued by this stuff. You always have new ideas. I write the new ideas in my black book. I don't talk about them. I don't even try to envision them until I'm done with whatever project is on my hands. Do you understand? Number three, limit passive consumption. This is a killer. What did I say? This is a what? Killer. Where you just learn small and you run away. Dear Jesus. Is whatever is worth doing is worth doing well. I wrote and I said prioritize active form of consumption, such as studying techniques, taking notes. You can't attend. It doesn't matter where you're watching it from. Even if I'm watching a video on YouTube, I have another device I'm typing something on, because you can't just be watching. I just watch and say wow and wow. When you are done, you just swipe the video to the next one. You must type something. You must take notes. You must write something down. You really must. It's called active learning or active consumption in this context. You must write something down. You really cannot just learn. You are having a conversation with someone, something sparked up in your mind, type it out. Don't just say, I'll remember. You shall not remember, I can assure you. Moving on. Okay, limit passive consumption, prioritize active form of consumption, such as studying techniques, taking notes, or thinking critically about what you watch, read or observe. This turns passive consumption into active inspiration. I used to tell people you can't watch movies with me, literally, and it's true. It's not as if I'm a bad movie person. I literally can watch a movie 5 times, and I'm not kidding. And that's why I hardly see movies. But when I see a movie, it has to be good. And if it is good, oh dear Jesus, I can see. The first time I see the movie is just to understand the groundwork. After the first time, I will analyze everything analyzable in that movie and apply it to real life. That's what happens. That's where many things come from. See, nobody was born this way. Nobody was born with this high level of knowledge capacity, or high level of creative capacity, or high level of innovative strength. We all got there by all of these things I'm introducing to you tonight. Number 4, reflect and curate. After a period of consumption, reflect on what resonated most. Creating a list or mood board of ideas can organize inspiration and prepare the mind for creation. Literally, of course, after you have consumed, you should always create lists, have mood boards. It helps you organize, and once it is organized, inspiration hits you at work. Does it make sense? Last, embrace imperfect creation. Literally, I cannot overemphasize this enough. It is never going to be perfect at the first go. Do you understand? I'm saying this to you from one creator to another. It is never going to be perfect at the goal. Okay, not every piece is has to be perfect. Building momentum in creation is sometimes more valuable than refining every detail. Start from where you are and start with what you have. It will only get better from here. Okay, yes, embrace imperfect creation. It doesn't have to be perfect. That is why software have upgrades. Yes, they will ask you to download a new upgrade, download a new something. It never will be perfect as scratch. Don't spend the time where you should be visible recreating and refining when you should have put out the stuff out there. I'm saying this again, it is never going to be perfect at first, but you work towards perfection. So, lastly, as an end note, balancing creation and consumption ultimately enhances a creator's ability to develop original, impactful work. It's about feeding the mind without overwhelming it, yes, refining skill without burning out, and fostering cycles where inspiration leads to creation and creation invites further inspiration. It took me a while to find this ending notes, but you can write my ending notes on a wall somewhere and type it out and be looking at it every day. Don't mind me, just kidding. But balancing creation and consumption ultimately enhances a creator's ability to develop original, impactful work. It's about feeding the mind without overwhelming it, refining skills without burning out, and fostering a cycle where inspiration leads to creation and creation invites further inspiration. What a life. This is why we do not run out of content to create. We do not run out of things to create. There is always more where it came from. Do you understand? I hope you got value from the class tonight, and it was worth your while. Literally, the mind of a creator, observing the balance between creation and consumption, observing the balance between creation and what? Consumption, observing the balance between creation and consumption. So this brings us to the end of tonight's class, or this class whenever you're listening to this, what time zone you're listening to this from. I hope you got value for time. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you're going to practice what you have learned, which is the most important part of the whole equation, practicing what you have learned and all of that. So thank you so much for participating. Of course, like I said at the mid of the class, subscribe and share on this platform. And if you are new to Beyond the School Wall, welcome to the family. Beyond the School Wall is an educative institution that is out there to just raise innovative and creative young individuals for the world. Okay, you can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Telegram. Literally, yes, Beyond the School Wall everywhere. Okay, and then you can check out our link directory to register for our classes, all of those things. That's linktree/BTSW directory. The link, I'm sure there's a graphical stuff on your screen right now that helps you walk through. So thank you so much for participating in the class this day. We're going to be having more of these beautiful contents come your way, so subscribe so you don't miss them. See, we meet next time. My name is Oluwatomisin Oguntolu. Please be safe, please be good, and continue creating. God bless you.